Hi, my name is Mindy Hort, and I'm a Teen Beachbody coach. I'm a 33-year-old mother of three, and I also have two stepchildren. The children range from ages almost 4 to 16. It's extremely important to me to instill healthy habits in them now while they're growing up, because as a coach, I help people across the nation, and a lot of them are my age in their 30s, 40s, and even 50s. And one thing that I've found that most of them have in common is that now as they're getting older, and sometimes it's because of their struggles with their weight or even health problems, that they've shared with me that it's not easy for them, not just so much because of implementing new changes into their life, but because these things were instilled in them as children. A lot of people grew up eating processed foods, not eating regular meals throughout the day, and also eating, especially here in the South, because I live in Texas, eating, meat and potatoes and never eating vegetables. And there's a lot of adults that are my age who don't like vegetables and fruits. So I did realize that, I grew up in this household where my father, started to become overweight in his mid 30s. And pretty much for my whole entire life, I remember them going on diets all the time. My mother didn't really struggle with her weight. She had been slightly overweight as a child, so I guess it was pretty important to her. But I remember them going on cabbage soup diet, Atkins diets, juicing diets, and all these different things that never lasted long. But I will say that I grew up in Northern California. People seem to be a little more health conscious, and there seems to be a little more healthy food options than here in the South. So I did grow up being forced to eat vegetables and fruits and whole grains, and so I did have it instilled in me. And I'm going to be honest, I didn't like it when I was a child. My mom pretty much steamed everything and didn't season anything. But for me, even though I rebelled on the healthy eating habits as a teenager and even as a young adult, when I decided to take charge of my health in my mid 20s, and it's compounded even more, and it's been even more important to me since I've become a coach and learned so much more about food. At least it came back to me. I feel that, because I was forced to eat all of these vegetables, that it's easier to actually pick them up whenever you become older than to have to try it for the whole, the first time. I will say I'm thankful that my parents made me eat these foods, even though I hated it, because it just makes it easier. So I don't force my kids to eat, things that taste horrible. I've tried different things. I've tried steaming, sautéing, grilling, and even roasting, which our family loves roasted vegetables because it's important. I don't just give them whatever they want and let them eat, Doritos and McDonald's and, processed foods just because that's what would be easier, or that's because that's what they want. I make nutritious foods. I try to make them where they're actually tasty, and that they enjoy it. And the great thing is that I make them at least eat a spoonful. So at least it's an acquired taste. Because I think that's important, and I know that they can't eat that way, all the time because it's very difficult. I know a lot of people who do, but it is difficult. But I want them to at least be, familiar with it, so it's easier. I do have taught them about making the right choices and abstaining from processed foods, and I explain that to them. I don't just impose this lifestyle and crazy changes on everybody, but I at least try to introduce it to them. And because I hear so many parents out there who say, oh, my kids won't eat that, and so they don't even introduce it to them. Well, if you never feed it to them and you just make these choices for them, of course they're not. And then later on, if they struggle with any health problems or weight problems, it's going to be very hard. So I just feel as parents, we owe so much to our children. Part of it is healthy living, because you don't want your kids to struggle later on, and this is a generational thing. So I feel that it's my job to make sure that my kids are educated and provide them with the things, and at least they're better equipped and better armed later on in life. I've given suggestions to parents out there because I personally don't like to cook two meals. I don't want to. I cook things that are good tasting and nutritious. There's a website, cleaneating.com. You can find a lot of comfort foods out there that you can cook in a more healthy way. One thing that I do too is my children drink Shakeology every day. They love it. Um, you know and so many parents out there say, "Oh, I don't give my kids Shakeology because it's expensive." Well, I'm sorry, but health bills, and because I see people on social media who are always complaining about their kids being sick all the time. You don't think that the food has something to do with that? Of course it does. My kids have not been sick in over 2 years. I think that it's the most nutritious thing I can give them. It's better than sending them through a McDonald's drive-through in the morning for breakfast, or going to the donut shop and giving them donuts to start their day, or having them miss any meals. So these things are very important to me. Another thing that I do is I work out in front of them. Well, I became a coach and started working out for pretty much the first time in my life. It started off with P90X when my son was like 15 months old. It was difficult trying to, work around him. He's climbing all over me. He was playing with the weights. There was times I bumped him in the head one time with my Les Mills pump barbell. But the thing is, now he's almost 4 years old. This is a habit to him. He understands. My kids will join me. They don't stay working out the whole 30-minute workout, but they understand. I run a fit club in town every Tuesday night. Most of the time, my kids are with me. This is something that's normal to them. My son, I pick him up. Are we going to the gym tonight? These are things that are important. I see so many parents who make this a lifestyle for them, and they don't incorporate their whole family, and it makes it even harder on them. And then the thing is, this is something that should be done as a family. This is something that should be instilled in your children. Don't just let them figure it out later on when they're in their 30s, or whenever there's a health concern where they are forced to. So to me, these are very important, and I really urge all parents to do the same. If you have any questions, or if you want some tips of how I've incorporated it into our regular family routine, feel free to reach out to me. But I'm a Team Beachbody coach, and I'm a mom who, really wants to help not just myself, but my whole family and everybody else out there, to make this a lifestyle and to make it something that sticks and something that will benefit everybody's health and future, for, in the long run.